Well, guys, I believe that we're live. this.
Well, guys.
Whoa, hang on. I need to mute my laptop. All right, this video is going to be about the 10 things I absolutely love about China. And the reason why I decided to live in China for 13 plus years, why I still live in China, even though I'm currently out of China for a brief period. What we're going to do, guys, is I'm going to have to ignore the chat for now. We'll be having a Q&A once I've finished with my 10 points. I'm going to be discussing them and telling you a few stories. And once I'm done with all the stories and all the points, I'll be opening up a Q&A. And I know a lot of you guys have questions. I will endeavor to answer the most questions as possible, as many as possible. But let's begin. In between each point, I'm going to be talking about something. I'm going to explain this flag behind me, and I'm going to explain a couple of things about what's going on currently with my channel and various other things. So let's just get started. Now, I don't want to go and do the boring things that most people would normally talk about, you know, things like food. Okay, that's probably the first thing most expats that live in China would tell you, is one of the things they love about China is the food. I'm going to say no, that's actually not one of the things I love about China at all. In fact, I've got some pretty strong opinions about food in China, which I'll get to later. But I'm going to start by saying that the absolute number one thing that I love about China is adventure. Fairly predictable, I guess. Thing is, adventure is pretty spectacular in China. And by that, I mean, sorry, give me a second here. By adventure, I mean going to someplace completely different. I mean, this isn't unique to China, of course. If you're Chinese and you go to Zimbabwe, or something like that, you'll have a similar experience. You're going to be moving to a place that doesn't speak your language and a place that is entirely unfamiliar to you. Now, I know it's a bit weird. People might not quite understand, but moving to a place that is so alien to your own culture is pretty amazing. Now, I'm not talking about an American going to Europe or a European person going to Australia or to America or any other English-speaking, part of the world. Because sure, different food, different accents, different people, couple of different ways of doing things. But when you move to a country that has been so cut off for so long, like China, you're walking into a place that is just astronomically different than anything you've ever experienced before. And that's what hit me. You know, you look around and you can't read the signs around you. No one speaks your language, especially when I first got to China. It was just a situation where nobody could understand me. I couldn't understand anyone. And even in the bigger cities, it was just not possible. Sorry, let me turn my phone off so it doesn't bother us. Excuse me, 1 second. Okay, it's off. So, you're basically dealing with a culture that is so vastly different, and it was exciting. I used to go out and just walk, even when I didn't have money and I just arrived there. Just being able to just walk around the cities at night. China is a very safe place to walk around at night. But I used to walk around at night, I used to walk around during the day. I used to walk for kilometers every day. And just to experience different things, you see someone doing something which just baffles you. You can't actually understand why someone would do something like that. So now you have to think about it. You have to try to make sense of it all. That's kind of why I enjoy my videos, because I can explain to all of you guys all the very different things that I made sense of over the years in China. Anyway, the thing is, just walking and exploring and seeing something completely different. The landscapes, the kind of animals, if you can find them, because to be honest, in the big cities, you don't see any wildlife because they're all eaten, to be quite blunt. they get caught and eaten. So that's why you don't see birds in Shenzhen, for instance. And I've actually seen people catch them, so I'm not just making this up. But yes, when you do see wildlife, you see different fruits in the supermarkets, you see different kinds of vegetables, everything's just completely different. So that's my number one. I don't want to keep going on about this, but the adventure of it is pretty much, my number one thing. Now, number two. Number two might, I'm going to have to be very careful on how I approach number two, because number two is discrimination. And this is something I love about China, okay? And it sounds very strange. But Chinese people are some of the most racist people I've ever met in my life. And it's simply because they were never exposed to the whole idea of being politically correct. That's not part of their culture. And while that was all busy happening in the West, they were cut off. So they never really understood that concept. And also China has always been very homogenous and very sort of, how can we say? It's very monocultural, and the people within China all look the same and they all kind of act the same. And this, of course, changes in the different regions, but not by a massive margin. So it's always been a very sort of discriminatory culture. When they look at people from outside, they'll say, oh, look, this is a black person does this. Look, this is a white person does this. Look, I could go on, but basically they're incredibly discriminatory. And it can come as a big shock for people who are used to politically correct culture. And it can be very upsetting, and it has upset a lot of people that I know. And for instance, I've met a lot of foreigners who've actually been appalled and left China very soon. They'd come there to work, but because people were rude, they thought, or too discriminatory, they would talk about their weight, or they'd talk about the color of their skin, or they'd be very, very rude towards them. And it is rude from a Western point of view. They couldn't handle it, and so they left. But for me, it was like a breath of fresh air. And like I said, I have to be careful about how I say this, because if anyone finds out that there's a South African saying that he likes racism, well, they'll probably burn down my country. Oh, wait, that's already happened. Anyway, I don't like racism. That's not the point of this. What I like is I like the fact that people acknowledge the differences between different cultures, different nationalities, and different races within China, very openly. Sometimes they go too far. So a lot of it is very ignorant. But the fact that it's an open discussion is a very big breath of fresh air for someone like myself. I grew up in a country where, just even trying to talk about the differences between different cultures and different people can get you into a lot of trouble. And it's nice to be able to air it out and say, yes, we enjoy doing this kind of thing. We enjoy eating this kind of food. You enjoy doing this. You enjoy eating this kind of thing. Yes, we're different, but we can be friends and we can be the same, and et cetera, in other ways. So for me, that was a big positive. And it's my number two reason why I love China, is because you can cut through the politically correct bullshit, for lack of a better word. And it is a bit too extreme. I think there needs to be a balance. I've mentioned this before, but it is a very positive point when it comes to China. So my number three thing that I love about China actually riffs off of that. It's the curiosity and the hospitality that comes along with this discrimination. By the way, these 10 points that I'm talking about here that I love about China are 100% from the point of view of a foreigner. If you are Asian, if you look Chinese in any way and you go to China, you won't experience what I'm talking about here. And this list of 10 things probably will be something that you will not experience. Maybe a few of them, but a lot of them you won't. And that's because of this heavy discrimination. When Chinese people see a foreigner, they'll be like, oh, look, a foreigner. And then they'll want to come and talk to you, and they'll treat you in a different way. And to be honest, this is a big point of contention with a lot of my haters is something that they'll say is something along the lines of, you only like China because you're treated special there, and you just take advantage of the people treating you special, and you're nothing back home, and this kind of usual nonsense that they like to talk about. But riddle me this. Let's just say I enjoy eating ice cream, right? Something I love, ice cream. And there is an ice cream shop like 5 hours drive from my house that sells the best ice cream that I've ever had. Tastes delicious, okay? It's incredibly good. So I decide, okay, I want good ice cream. I get in my car, I put in the effort, I drive 5 hours, I pay the gas, I pay the tolls, I do everything I need to do. I put in all this effort to get to this shop that sells this fantastic ice cream. And I have that ice cream and I enjoy it. Well, stop trying to complain that I put in all the effort and the energy to go there because the ice cream's good. Let me put it to you this way. If you don't want me going all the way to that shop to buy that ice cream and eat that ice cream, just don't make good ice cream over there. Make it unpalatable, make it disgusting, and then I'll stop going there. So I know it's a bit of a strange analogy, but you can think of the positives of living in China as a foreigner as that really good tasting ice cream. And that's the reason why I've gone through not only traveling halfway across the world to live there, but all of the very difficult things of living in China, adapting, learning a new language, adapting to a culture that is entirely alien to my own, putting up with a lot of discrimination, putting up with a lot of bullshit. I'm probably going to use that word a lot, sorry. But all this effort that I've put in to moving to and living in China is because the ice cream's good. So, like I said, if you don't want people like myself going to China and enjoying life in China, then, basically all those little perks have to go away, and then we won't. And unfortunately, they are kind of going away, but we'll get into that later. This is about what I love about China. Okay. So, sorry, back to the whole thing. Number 3 is the curiosity and the hospitality. Now, this is something that I can very clearly state is a perk that you will probably only get as a foreigner, as mentioned before. Because almost every time I've traveled around China, and I go to rural parts of China specifically, I'm very fortunate that I get to do these long journeys through the rural parts of China. I've been doing them for years and years and years. And I get away from the big cities and I go to small towns and villages where quite often they've never seen foreigners in real life. And so you're a curiosity. So, you'll sit down at a restaurant to have a meal, and you'll be the first foreigners that have ever been to that restaurant. And as a result, you'll get swamped. You'll get people all around you wanting to know about you, wanting to pay your meal. Even the poorest people, like, you go to their restaurant, they'll be like, no, the meal's for free. Even if you insist, I always try my best to slip some money to make sure, if that situation does arise. You just experience this incredible curiosity and hospitality. Especially in rural China, people will, try their best to accommodate you. And if they see you're in trouble or if you need a place to stay, they'll help you out, and they are very friendly, especially the more rural people in China, incredibly friendly and hospitable. But this comes, like I said, because you're a foreigner. If I was a Chinese person and I traveled to this rural town and I sat down in a small restaurant and ordered a bowl of noodles, nobody would bat an eyelid, and they would look at me and then look away, and that would be it. But as a foreigner, you arrive in these small towns, you sit down in the small little restaurant, and all of a sudden you're like a superstar. It would be like, I don't know, who's big right now? I always lose touch. Someone like Nicolas Cage. I'm just kidding. We always make fun of Nicolas Cage. But let's just say you were Nicolas Cage or Brad Pitt or whoever's big right now. I'm so out of touch. Anyway, you turn up in this small village, everybody thinks you're a superstar, and they lay out the red carpet, and they're very happy to talk to you and buy you a drink and all this. Of course, this does have a downside. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the video with that guy trying to kiss me. And that kind of situation happens, and it's unfortunate, and it can get really old. But if you're new to China, it's actually a wonderful experience to have all this attention and so on and so forth. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. My number four, the number four reason I love China is just how laid back, slow and easy life is in China. In the West, we have, at least I did, and a lot of people I speak to have this idea that in China people work very hard, work very long hours, and incredibly hard working and all that. But it's actually not true. People do work long hours, but that's mainly just because of the way they work. And I have to tell you that when it comes to actual work ethic in China, people, they just do what they need to do to get it done. And there's actually a big part of the Chinese culture, which is, it's permeated within Chinese culture, and it's called 过日子. 过日子 means to pass the day. And it's everybody's, how can we say, almost goal in life to be in a situation where they can just 过日子, which means, do as little as possible. Don't think about the future. Don't think about the past. Think about passing the day so that you can just finish the day, and then tomorrow it'll be the same. And I've seen this amongst all different walks of life in China, from the rich to the poor to the middle class, especially once you leave the big cities. It is different in places like Shanghai, Shenzhen, Beijing. You will see a lot more driven people and entrepreneurs, etc. But for the most part, and I'd say a good 90% of China kind of all want to get into this situation in life where they can just 过日子. And, if you work in an office, or if you've worked in offices like I have in China, you will see people turn up. They spend as much time as they can faffing around, doing very little work, waiting for lunch. Lunch comes around, it's a 2-hour lunch break. They sleep during lunch break, and then they faff around. And here's the thing that confuses a lot of us foreigners is you'll see people working overtime and staying late. But if you actually get to know them and you see what they're doing, they're just staying late because it's more comfortable to stay in the office to watch online movies, or to shop on Taobao, or to do their own personal tasks and things like that, rather than go home to usually cramped apartments or shared accommodation, things like that. And most companies will provide some sort of accommodation and food and stuff for free anyway, especially factories, etc. So it's a kind of a strange situation. And of course, I'm not discounting the fact that there are people that do work hard, and there are pretty grubby working conditions in certain places, but that is more of a product of the society and the way people think, because a lot of people will work in a grubby situation just because they don't really care about that. The company is paying for their food and their accommodation, and they'll just use it, and they don't care about making it look nice. And their workspace, they don't care about it as long as they can get their job done, finish up, leave, and go. But this is something that I love about China. You see, this is what I'm trying to say, is the fact that people can be relaxed. And they're a bit more jovial because they don't have a big burden on their shoulders. When you walk around in public, you don't see people with this determined look in their eye, walking down the street, like you do on the streets of London or New York, or places like that, where people head down, walking, got to get here, got to go there, got to do this. You just don't have that. When people walk around, they walk around as if they're, enjoying a Sunday afternoon. And when they finish work, or when they go to work, it's relaxing. When they finish work, it's relaxing. It's kind of like one big chill. And there will be people that disagree with me, but if you've lived in China long enough, you'll know that what I'm saying is true. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Number 5. Okay. The cost of eating out. Now, as all of you know, right now I'm currently in California. Only for a short while longer. I have to go back to China. I can't tell you exactly when because I don't want people to know my exact movements because it'll make it so much easier for the Wu Mao to cause trouble for me. So it's going to just happen. I'll suddenly post a video and I'll be in China again. This flag, by the way, behind me, all these signatures, thank you. You know who you are. The first big trip I did across America in my Corvette. That's why I got my Corvette on the, let me move out of the way for you to see. Oops, sorry. There we go. That's supposed to be me, but I don't look that hardcore. The artist is just very flattering. Anyway, the first time I crossed America, I did a 10,000-mile road trip. And everybody that I met along the way, my subscribers at my subscriber meetups got to sign it. So that explains the signatures. Anyway, back to the eating out. Here in America, eating out is expensive, at least in California. I know it varies, but not only is it expensive, you also have to pay tips here, which is a big culture shock for me, to be honest. Because in China, you don't have to pay tips at all. It's literally like, why would you do that? If you try to pay tips, they often try to force it back on you, or they run after you to give you the money. It's just not culturally part of life in China. And having lived there for 13 years, I got used to that, that and the fact that you don't have sales tax, mystery sales tax, I should say. Of course, there's sales tax, but it's there. So when you see an item on the shelf or when you see an item on the menu, if it says 12 RMB, it's 12 RMB. It's not like 12 RMB plus 13% tax or whatever it is. So, you go out here for a meal in California or the USA, and you see an item on the menu, $5.99, cool. You order that, and when you get your bill, it's like more like 7 something plus a 15% or 18% or whatever it is tip, and you're like, what the hell? It ends up being almost like double what you thought it would be, which is really annoying. I don't understand it. I think, it should be a little simpler. But anyway, my point is, if you go out for a meal in China, and this is the north, the south, the east, the west, doesn't matter where, I can quite honestly say in the majority of Chinese restaurants, not fancy Western places or anything, but Chinese restaurants, you'll pay about $7 to $8 for a meal for a person, including a beer or something. And you get used to that. Of course, I take Sasha out on Sundays. I call Sunday Sasha Day, actually, because I always like to make sure that I have one day where we always spend our time together, and I don't make any plans. I don't meet up with anyone else. I just only spend time with my wife. So Sunday has now been redesignated Sasha Day in my house. And so, sorry, I just distracted there. Put this. Sorry, that's my phone. It keeps flashing. I'm putting it away. Okay, so like I said, I take Sasha out, and then yes, we'll have an expensive meal, but by expensive I mean more like maybe $20-$30 or something like that, US dollars, for the two of us at a nice restaurant. You will never ever be in a situation where you'll spend more than $100 US on a meal, unless you go to some fancy place, really fancy place. And there are some very fancy, pretentious, overpriced places in China if you try to live a Western lifestyle. Anyway, so that's another thing I love about China is the cost of going out for a meal. And in fact, when I first got to China, it just blew me away. I was going out for meals every day, for lunch and dinner. And, back home in South Africa, I'd go out for a meal maybe once a month because, money's tight and it's expensive to go to restaurants in South Africa. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Kind of along the same lines is how cheap China is if you're a backpacker. Now, I'm not a backpacker. Never have been a backpacker. I don't own any tie-dye t-shirts. I've never had dreadlocks. I don't even have a pair of sandals. But if you are a backpacker, or if you just want to kind of travel on the cheap, China is fantastic for that. You do really have to slum it, though. And by that, I mean you have to travel on unair-conditioned buses, with bad suspension and very poor safety and stuff for hours and hours and hours and days and stuff. But you can get around China very cheap. There's a massive train network. The high-speed rail is expensive for a backpacker, but the slow-speed rail is not expensive. So if you wanted to have an adventure and travel around and see a lot of China, at least going from city to city and the big tourist attractions, because it is actually hard to get out of the major metropolitan areas to the rural countryside in China. It's difficult because no one really wants to do that. Everyone just wants to travel to the big cities or the big tourist attractions. The infrastructure is there and it's cheap. So that's another thing I love about China. Okay, number 7 is a sense of community. And it may be a false sense of community at the end of the day, but it still is. You get this incredible sense of community, and that's because of the amount of people that are on the streets all of the time. So whenever I leave my apartment in China and I walk out my front door, there will already be people in my building who are coming out of the elevators, as soon as I step out of the door. And I go out into the garden. They call them gardens, huayuans in China, but it basically means an apartment complex. Go into my garden, there'll be kids running around, there'll be grandmothers taking care of babies, there'll be people doing their things, delivery guys. You just walk out there and there are people everywhere. And you'll have little village areas where you can walk down and buy your basic groceries and do things like that, maybe some takeaway restaurants and stuff. And there are always people around you all the time in China. You will not escape that. And even if you go out into the middle of remote nowhere in China, there are still people. They come out of the woodwork, man. There's just, it's something that you won't really understand unless you go to China or India. India is quite similar. I've been to India before. Having been here in California now for a short while, it's really like night and day. If I walk outside, people like to keep to their own, they're walking their dog or something. You might come across a person every once in a while. You say hi and they might nod at you or say hi, but everybody's kind of keeping to themselves and they enjoy their privacy. Whereas in China, everybody's kind of in everyone else's business. And, you kind of start to feel as if you are part of this massive community, whether you are or not. You still feel this sense of community. And it's something that I really love about China, is it makes you feel safe. It makes you feel welcome. But of course, as a foreigner, there are times where this isn't the case. And people point at you and say, look, there's a foreigner. And if there's some kind of thing going on where suddenly foreigners are the bad people, you can feel the tension in the air. But most of the time, walking around, you feel happy and part of a community. And that's something I love. Okay, number 8 is nightlife. The nightlife, by the way, guys, if you're asking questions, I can't see any of the questions yet. I will get to them, I promise, shortly in about 5 minutes. I've only got these last two points to do. Nightlife is outstanding in China. Various different kinds of nightlife, and it depends on you, really. I'm going to start with just what I found attractive and good, and one of the things that made me really want to stay in China, and that is just life out on the streets. Now, guys, I must say that this is more of a southern China thing. It does happen in the north of China, but much less, because first of all, it gets darker sooner, but second of all, it's just too damn cold for people to be outside. It's like Canada or something like that, or wherever, where it's like a snow prison. And, when it's cold, no one wants to go outside, and it makes no sense going outside. So shops close earlier in the north, and so do all sorts of establishments, at least during winter. But down south, because it's so damn hot all the time, first of all, trying to sleep at night's difficult because it's so hot. And a lot of people don't have air conditioners, or they don't turn them on because they want to save money. And so they end up going out, walking at night. And you'll see people in the parks getting together to do their synchronized dancing, that kind of thing, or just hanging out, talking to each other. But my biggest thing was the fact that you can walk out at night and people set up these little barbecue stalls on the side of the road. And it's usually just cheap little folding tables and plastic chairs and kind of a cart that they roll out there, or you'll have some semi-permanent setups. And you can just chill out and sit there and have a beer and enjoy some tasty food. It's not healthy. It's really not healthy, but it's damn tasty. And if you've got a weak stomach, you will have diarrhea, 100% guaranteed. But if you grew up in Africa like me, you will not get diarrhea, and you will enjoy it, and you will have a great time. So that part of the nightlife has always been one of the things that I love the most about China, to be honest. Just the freedom to go out at night at 2 o'clock in the morning and find a place to sit down and have a beer and have a drink. Sorry, same thing. Have a beer and food has always been something that I've absolutely loved about China. If it comes to nightclubs and things like that, it's a little different. I feel like the nightclubs in China are pretty much stuck in the 90s, maybe something like that. Kind of like rave techno sort of stuff that goes on there. It's vastly different. I haven't been to clubs in a long time. That's not my thing anymore. In fact, I never really was much of a club person, even when I was younger. But I have been to a lot of clubs in China, and it's loud. You can't hear yourself think. Lots of smoke machines, lots of strobe lights. They have a lot of sexy dancers, almost like strippers really, dancing around in a lot of the clubs. It's a bit bizarre. There's a lot of noise from dice because people play this dice game, which I'll explain to you all in the future. It's kind of a fun drinking game. And it's just a different kind of a thing. But if that's your thing, if dancing and clubbing and stuff is your thing, man, you can find it everywhere in China. Even in the funny little rural towns, you'll find these. Me and my friends on the bike trips, we used to call them techno holes. And they're the most obnoxious little places you'll ever come across. You walk into this place and it's like blasting the most trashy techno mixed with like Russian communist songs. It's so funny. Anyway, it's and it's tasteless. The decorations are just so out of this world. I should actually do some videos about that, and I will when I go back to China. I will go through the torture of going into one of those techno holes just for your viewing pleasure. How about that? Okay, so we're kind of getting to the end of the list here. Of course, I have to add onto this list as well. Before I get there, let me do the number 9 one. Let's see, what did I put down for number 9? Okay, rule of law. Okay. Now, this is something I love, but at the same time, it is something that can be very annoying. And that is the fact that the rule of law is more of a suggestion than it is anything else. In other words, you can get away with pretty much anything in China as long as you don't take the piss. And by that, I say this a lot, by that I mean you don't go overboard. So, basically you can live the life you want. You can be a bit of a hooligan. You can, go out there and be smashed in public, drunk, staggering around, having a good time with your mates and, just enjoying life and that sort of thing. And you've got the flexibility to, for instance, open a company without any paperwork or permits. That's what most people do. At least they did. I think, things are changing. Most people do that. They open a company. If it's successful, then they start to apply for the correct permits. Because when you start to get some recognition, then they'll start looking into you. But otherwise, they don't. And so basically what I'm saying is it's a gray sort of a society where you can get away with pretty much everything as long as you look legit, as long as you kind of look legit and as long as you don't step on any toes. So that's something I do love about China is the flexibility, the ability to basically start things and do things without having to worry about, permits and stuff. And just an example is, although, Churchill Customs that we started, although we did get proper work permits and stuff for it because, we had connections through Seamilk's parents-in-law's friends or whatever, we did get the right permits. We didn't have to do things like fire safety or workman's safety. That's why you'll see in the videos me grinding on stuff without goggles or, it's stupid, but the fact that you don't need to worry about anything like that, it's kind of refreshing. As long as you're not an idiot, it actually makes your life a lot easier. Okay, and number 10, which is actually number 1, and you all saw this coming, but the number 1 thing I love about China is my wife. obviously, who, by the way, is a doctor, if you didn't know. All right, so it is now time for us to get into the Q&A. Now, like I said to you guys, I will only be able to answer super chats because there's a lot of text going on here. So I'm going to scroll through and see what I can find. And I'm going to start with the first one from Robert, and that is, what is the cost of electricity in China? It's actually very cheap. Let me get this correct. I'm just going to do a little conversion here. My average electricity bill in China, living in a first-tier city in Shenzhen, during winter and, in other words, not summer. In summer, you have the air conditioner on 24/7. So that's a lot more expensive, but it's usually around about $20 a month for my electricity. And during the summer, when you have your air conditioner on 24/7, it can go, I've had bills all the way up to about $90 was the biggest bill I ever received, and that was running like two air conditioners 24/7 pretty much for the whole month. Well, at least while I was in the house, which is quite a lot of time because I'm always editing and stuff. I don't go out the house to do a 9-to-5 job. So electricity is actually pretty cheap in my experience. Next one is from Robert. Robert Score. Huawei executive arrested in Canada. Does China start snatching American businessmen off the streets in retribution? I don't think so, but I wouldn't put it past them. The thing is, this whole Huawei thing, it's complicated, and it has to do with fraud. And she's been arrested because she basically facilitated bank transfers and money transferred between American banks and a company that was basically selling sanctioned things to Iran. So it's a bit of a political mess, and who knows what's going to happen with this. But usually with China, when there is this tit for tat thing going on, always, whenever something happens towards Chinese visas, they'll do the same towards American visas. And, you see this tit for tat thing a lot. So it's entirely possible that suddenly something like Apple or some big company in China is going to suddenly fall foul of regulations where they'll say, oh, you are not following our laws, so we're going to revoke your license. I think that's probably more what's going to happen here. Okay, let's see. Any more super chats? Wow, there are only 2 super chats. So Edmund gave me a £2 super chat. Thank you for that, mate. But you don't have a question. Oh, hang on. Sorry, here it is. My mistake. Someone asked, are you safe? Did the CCP lean on you? I'm safe. You don't need to worry about me, man. I'm all good. I know a lot of my videos recently have been crossing the line. I'm fully aware of that. The fact is, it's in my personality to be as truthful as possible. And I come from a country that has basically fallen apart. And, I saw it fall apart around me growing up. And it is now just a complete mess of a country. It's in ruins. No matter what you hear in the mainstream media or what you hear, it's way worse. It's a mess. And it's an awful situation. And I'll go into it more in detail in the future because I have a lot of family and friends still there, and they've sent me all these horrific videos and terrible things about what's going on there. And I've just held back on that sort of thing because it's something that I'd just rather not get into at the moment. So I've never been a political channel, and I've always tried to avoid it as much as possible. But, politics find you. So having seen what happened to my own country, and seeing what's happening to China at the moment, I'm not going to sit back and pretend it's all okay, because I'm seeing history repeating itself right in front of my eyes, and I'm seeing a country that I love, going backwards and quite literally closing up in front of my eyes, and it's affecting me in a very, very strong way. And as it is affecting all of the expats that live there and have lived there for long term. I alluded it to in my previous video that people that are just there for fun or for a short little stint as an English teacher or something like that, it probably won't affect you that much. You can still have a great time and everything. But people who've planned to live there long term, who have family there, and who have invested in the country as much as I have, it's not good. It's awful, and I want to talk about it. But talking about it puts me in a very dangerous position. So I have to be kind of careful. And the reason why I released my previous video about not airing China's dirty laundry was just to make it clear, whether anybody cares or not, but just to make it clear that my intent is not to slander China. My intent is not to be another China Uncensored who is political propaganda paid by the Falun Gong, which is actually a video I'm going to be talking about, is this crazy secret war that's happening in America, which I've been seeing in front of my eyes over the last period of time here. The war for people's opinions. It's incredible. And anyway, I've got that video coming soon. But the thing is, that's never been my prerogative. It's not something I want to do. But I made that video to make it clear that if that was ever my goal, that's what I would do. But it's not. I'm trying to point out the things that are affecting people like myself, and I'm trying to raise awareness so that people can understand what's going on around them. It's difficult to, almost impossible to change anything in China, but hopefully the right kind of people might start to at least be able to understand it, basically. Anyway, let's move on. Skyline 83, Skyline C83. How many times have you had diarrhea while in the US? 0. That's the thing. I don't actually get diarrhea. I have a very, very strong stomach. You can ask any of my friends. Usually I can eat whatever garbage and I'm okay. So, all right, let's see. Next one. TMD, thank you. Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. All right, let's move on to our next super chat question. TMD says, when are you coming to the UK? I had plans to go to the UK last year and they didn't come to fruition. But now with this whole ADV media thing that C-Milk and I are busy building, I'm positive that we'll be able to make it to the UK, if not next year, the year after. And the reason being, we'd like to basically do a whole thing around Europe on bikes, including going into Russia and doing the Trans-Siberian Railway and things like that. So it's on the cards. And of course, before we go anywhere, we're definitely going to announce it so that all of you guys know, and hopefully we can meet up wherever we go. So let's see. Okay. Someone says hotel or renting out for 2 to 3 months stay in China. Actually, my wife owns an apartment in China. So we always have a place to go to. And the thing is, where her apartment is, it's far out of the city and it's inconvenient. That's why I rent a fairly expensive, for China, actually very expensive apartment closer to her work, just for convenience for her. Because, I can work pretty much from my house. All I need to do is go out and film on the streets of China, and then I come back inside and edit. So I can pretty much be anywhere in China, to be honest. But I moved downtown for her, and her apartment just sits empty. So when we go back, we'll just go stay in her apartment. My lease will be up in the current place in February. So we're going to have to move everything out into her apartment. Okay, next. Okay, Chuckfish6 said, did my final presentation on ADV China and your recent tone for my Chinese media class. My professor loved it. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Chuckfish. That's not a question, but I appreciate it very much. Lydia Schwitz says, would you please try and speak in an American accent? Southern California, New York, anything. Wow, okay. I always say this to C-Milk when I'm just trying to rip him off, but I always say like, that them there horse of yours looks plumb tuckered out. And I think that's an American accent. Sorry, I'm terrible at accents, really. Okay, next. How different in China? This is from Mateus Croquelia. How different in China from capitalist West and communist countries? Not Mao's China, but currently. Hope this is clear. I'm quite drunk at the moment. How different in China from capitalist West and communist countries? Okay, China is like a mix between the two. I did a video about this. You can go look. It's called China is Not a Communist Country. And quite honestly, it isn't. It's just a planned economy. It's got a one-party rule. And so it seems like a capitalist society in, for all intents and purposes, that's what it appears to be. When you walk on the streets, you see Ferraris and you see Lamborghinis and you see shops selling things and you see people wearing designer clothes. But at the end of the day, the state owns everything. You can't own property there. You can only lease it from the government, and you have no say as to what the government does. So if they suddenly turn around and say you're not allowed to wear designer clothing tomorrow, you won't have a choice. That's pretty much China in a nutshell. From Anime Rota says, want to start Otaku magazine with me again? I don't know. That's an interesting question. Otaku magazines was a big part of my past, and I think that maybe not the exact same thing, but I might try to do something like that in the future with a bit of a twist on kind of this whole adventure thing and whatnot. So who knows? Anything's possible. Okay, sorry. Let's see if we've got any more here. Right. Sorry, guys. I'm going through the list here. All right. Thank you, Darklit. And Robert Score again. Vietnam, please do from perspective that helps a businessman with Vietnamese norms, etc., due to tariffs, etc. Sure thing, mate. I mean, when we go to Vietnam, we're going to be, a part of it is going to be comparing it to the rise of China, because that's kind of what Vietnam's doing at the moment, is they're growing and becoming the new manufacturing hub of the world, at least one of them and India. So we're going to be looking very much into that during our trip. Okay, Mr. I know what that means. I'm just not going to say your name, but thank you for the super chat. All right. Leong Young says, is it hard to get a visa to visit China if you are coming from a third world nation? Yes, it certainly is. I come from a third world nation. For all intents and purposes, South Africa is a third world country. And to apply for a tourist visa compared to someone coming from America or Canada or whatever is a lot harder. Just a tourist visa, I needed to provide a lot of information, proof of funds, proof of a return ticket, proof of booking and accommodation, all that kind of crap. And a lot of my friends from other countries are like, huh, what are you talking about? I just went in and I got it, or I just turned up at the border type thing, or I used an agent and it was easy. So I would say that you're definitely at a disadvantage. They're very discriminatory when it comes to handing out visas. The best thing to do, my personal opinion, is to get a hold of Forever Bright Visa Agency in Hong Kong. You just search Forever Bright Visa, you'll find them. And they have their ear to the ground. You can phone them, send them an email, say, hey, look, I am from XYZ country and I want to get a tourist visa. How much will it cost? How long will it take? And they'll tell you, sorry, that's not possible right now. Or they'll say, yes, you can do it. And the nice thing is you can fly to Hong Kong, go and apply with that agency, stay a night or two in Hong Kong, which can be expensive, but Hong Kong's a fantastic place to experience. Get your visa the next day or within 2 or 3 days and then pop over the border. So that's what I'd say. JK, will you be visiting Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? Absolutely will be. If all works out, I will be based in California next year with Sea Milk, but we'll be traveling a lot. When I say based here, I literally mean that. We're going to have our little office here for editing, all of the backups and hard drives and things and the editing rigs and all that crap. But we're going to be traveling a lot, and not just to different exotic locations. We'll be traveling a lot in America, because America has a lot to discover, especially for me. And I can't wait. I've always wanted to have a Philly cheese steak, like in Philadelphia. So that's it's happening. All right, next from Yasavak, are you aware that most of the Bitcoin mining machine are manufactured in Shenzhen? Is it possible to purchase them at a discount in your area? Yeah, actually, I've got a lot of footage of those Bitcoin machines, because in Huajianbei, which is that big electronics district, They've got an entire floor just dedicated to Bitcoin mining machines where they sell them and they make them and all that. So yeah, definitely you'll pay less if you buy them there. So it's worth looking at. I can maybe do a little something on that. But as far as I'm concerned, Bitcoin's kind of a bit of a fad that comes and goes. And I think it's one of those low ebbs at the moment. And in fact, it's kind of banned in China right now. So it's a little more difficult. Hapa Supremacy, yo, what's happening? Come to Dallas. Yeah, I'd love to go to Dallas. Absolutely love to. I'll be visiting Texas for sure. Next, TMD. It will be great to meet up and talk to Matt about waterfalls. All right. Okay, cool. All right, let's see what's next. Michael Hurta, great chat tonight. Thanks for taking the time. Looking forward to the new content and your pending move. Hashtag stay awesome. Thank you very much, mate. Me too. Guys, I know my channel is about China, but it's going to be more than China very, very soon. That's what this whole thing about me coming to America here and exploring the idea of starting a company with Sea Milk has been all about, is we want to expand our horizons beyond China. But by saying that, I know a lot of you might feel disappointed that you think that we might be leaving China behind, but that's actually not the case. China will still always be a part of the picture, whether I'll be visiting there because I have family there, or other places of, that are Chinese, like Singapore or Taiwan or Hong Kong or any of these places. That'll always be a very big part of my channel. And here in America, there is a lot going on here that you guys probably have no idea when it comes to Chinese. There are whole societies right underneath your nose that are happening right here. Chinese things, like kind of backdoor stuff, things that are going on, which I'm pretty sure most local people don't know. And it's kind of like this closed off Chinese community and these Chinese things that happen in America. And if you don't speak Chinese and you don't know the Chinese culture as well as I do, you wouldn't see it. You wouldn't know that it's there. And I plan to show all of you guys this stuff that's going on here because I find it kind of fascinating. And I find it very interesting that this kind of thing happens here in America. But more on that later. Let's see. What's next? I am trying to wait for this thing to refresh. So please give me a second. Sorry. My feed is a little out of date here. Let's go back up a little more. Got to find the... I hope I haven't missed anyone here. Okay. Will South Africa fall from R. Gardner? Sorry, mate, it has already fallen. It's basically in the death throes at the moment. And people might think I'm being negative or just overly dramatic about it, but it's true. It's absolutely true. It has, unfortunately. And I do actually have a video about that coming up. So it'll happen. James Fry says, what did you think about the second artificial moon that China wants over Sichuan province by 20? Mate, it's a bunch of bollocks is what it is. You can say you want something, but whether or not you can do it is another story. So yeah, take it with a pinch of salt. Win Wing. Hi, what do you think the outcome of the China-US trade war will be? It's difficult to say. What I would hope to see would be a little bit more fairness and a little bit of humility where it's necessary. It can go two ways, but right now, China's seen such an astronomical growth for so long that people expect it. It's kind of like a spoiled child who his mother's always giving him everything he wants, and he grows up and suddenly his mother loses her job or something. But like every day, she's just, every time he wants a new toy, every time he wants a sweet or candy, she hands it over. And then all of a sudden she loses her job and she can't afford to give him everything he wants. And he starts to throw a tantrum, But at the end of the day, the mother can't afford to keep giving him these sweets and these toys and everything like that. So how that child reacts really will give us the outcome. And we don't know yet, because they can either start throwing their toys out the cot and getting aggressive and getting dangerous, or they can be understanding and realize that, oh, you know what, I'm actually just a spoiled little shit that's been getting everything that I always wanted my entire life, and I've got to grow up. So we'll see. Drinking water on a Friday night. How do you know this is water and not pure vodka? Come on. It is water, by the way. And yeah, I'm drinking water on a Friday night, but that's because I have to. This is one thing that's quite different in America, is if I wanted to go get some booze, I kind of have to get in my car and drive somewhere and then come and bring it back. I know there are apps that you can use to get stuff delivered. I know that there are. But, you know, in China, it's literally, I just walk outside, grab booze, and come straight back because it's everywhere. So, yeah, I literally am drinking water because I don't have any booze in the house. All right. Dion Chapman, you should start a travel magazine as part of ADV Media. You know, you've mentioned this, and this is part of the plan. What we plan to do is on our website, whenever we visit a place, you know, we recently visited Taiwan. We're going to give a very exhaustive list of the places we visited and all the steps that we took to do it. And I think we want to do that with every place that we visit to make it easy for anyone who wants to follow in our footsteps and have their own adventure. Take away the uncertainty of it, you know, the daunting things. Answer the questions that most people have, you know, because you don't really know where to start. Like Taiwan, we'll tell you exactly where to start, how much it costs to fly there, you know, how you can get to the closest hotel, how you can use the public transport, how you can rent a scooter, all the best places to go, you know, all that kind of nonsense. All right, let me scroll down again and see what we've got. From China 5 Delta, scroll to beginning, missing 20 plus questions, another beer on me. Whoops, really? I apologize for that. If I've missed your question, I will go back through this all and we'll take a look in a minute. Black Sheep, enjoy your trip in the USA. Wow, mate. Thank you very much. I tell you what, when I make my way to Australia, which I will, I know a lot of people keep asking if I'm going to, but absolutely, Australia and New Zealand are on the list of places I really want to visit. My wife, Sasha, who's a doctor, is always going on about Australia. She loves it there. You know, she went there and she did her 3-month internship, and it was her first real experience overseas away from China, and it made such a massive impression on her. She won't shut up about it. So I'm going to have to take her there so she can see kangaroos and wallabies and all the other things that you guys have there, you know, wombats or whatever it is, and funnel spiders and, you know, all that stuff, and taipans. Yeah, so definitely. But, you know, I've got some family in Australia, and I think Australia is a fantastic place, so I can't wait. Thank you, Rocky. I appreciate that. And please do a USA culture shock video. Yeah, okay. I've got something along those lines. So yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep going and see what we can see over here. Sorry if I've missed some questions. This is coming hard and fast, and I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, here, I think I'm back on track. Rocky 1138, if you ever come to Toronto, my family and I will come to meet you. You're the reason I got into bikes. Thanks, mates. Oh, that's fantastic. You know, I'm happy to hear that. Being able to ride a bike is such a freeing and amazing thing, and I wish more people would do it. But of course, as long as you're safe and respectful, you know, when it comes to riding, I think, you know, you can have the most fun ever. It's one of the best hobbies in the world. You get to meet some of the best people. Other bike people are always friendly, and it's fantastic. And thank you. I can't just go into Canada, though. I need to apply for a visa. So a lot of people keep saying, hey, you're down in California. Why don't you just pop up over the border? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to, but I need to apply for a damn visa first. So when I do get my Canadian visa, I'll let you guys know, and we'll have some get-togethers. Jeffrey C. Bowman, MED. Hey, Winston, I just drink below up you WeChat, my bad. Come visit in NC and ride the bike in the Outer Banks. Yeah, mate, I did get your email, and thank you very much. And if we're in New York, I'll look you up. Chuckfish6, would you guys consider doing some Top Gear style challenges on your travel vlogs, used bikes or cars? Sure. I mean, to be honest, that was always the goal when we started ADVChina. Our goal was that we would fly to some random place, buy some cheap bikes, fix them up, and then ride. And so it's kind of what we're going to be doing with India and places like that. We want to get the local bikes that everybody rides and fix them up and ride. So yeah, we'll be doing stuff like that. 4x4 CRX, will you come to Northern Ireland? We have great road racing bike scene here with the fastest bike road race in the world. Wow, okay. Of course, if we're going to Europe, there's no way I'm missing out on Ireland. Definitely not. Northern Ireland. Yep, I know the difference. All right, absolutely, mate. Loved the China tour documentary on Netflix. Awesome, but we don't have one on Netflix. We've got one on Amazon Prime. I guess that's what you're talking about, or Vimeo. Thanks, Paul. Honestly, I appreciate that a lot. Okay. Kurisu. Okay, Kurisu. Think you missed my first $5 super chat. I've discovered a lot of stuff I never knew existed in the US via my job, where 50% of my coworkers are Chinese. Thank you very much. Apologies if I scrolled past. I'm going to have to go up and see where I missed those questions. I apologize, guys. It's a little laggy and weird here. Have you seen Long Way Round, the London, New York? Yes, I did see Long Way Round. I think anybody who's an adventure rider or a biker has seen it, because it's, it's probably one of the first that ever did that sort of thing. And I wouldn't say it was an inspiration for what we do with our motorcycle adventures, because we always wanted to do something different. But it is definitely something to look to, because it was incredibly enjoyable and it was a very good documentary. Okay, next one. I think you are truly a cultural inspiration, and I think you're going great and making a good decision. Gumbe, and thanks. Thanks a lot, R. Jeffrey C. Bowman, MED. I really appreciate that a lot. Black Sheep, hope this helps your Taiwan visit. Can't wait to see more about Taiwan. Man, Black Sheep, thank you. You're too generous. You're way too generous. Seriously. All right. Let's see if I can scroll up and see if I can spot any of the ones I missed, because I'd hate to miss. Hello. I wonder if I can. Why? I really wish I could figure this out. I apologize. This is like the 4th live stream I've ever done in my entire life. So I'm just getting the hang of it here. And yeah, let's see what I've got going on down here. It won't let me scroll up too far. Anyway, if you make it to Melbourne, Australia, this is Dion Chapman, then you have a guide. Look me up on your Patreon. WeChat. Thank you very much, Dion. Yes, of course, I recognize your username, and if I'm coming to Australia, I will let all of you guys know well in advance, so that we can have a big Australian meetup and stuff. Like I said, I'm definitely going to be making my way to Australia for ADV Media, but also my wife, like I said, loves Australia, so we'll be there at some point on a holiday too, or maybe just combine the two. I know she hates that idea, but if I'm going to travel somewhere for work, may as well combine them. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if your birthday is near Christmas and you get a present that's kind of like, hey, this is a bigger present for Christmas and birthday. I know people don't really like that, but hey, sweet. All right, now let's see if I can get some more of these chats. I've got to figure this out. All right, there's another $10 from the very interesting German name. Thanks. Okay, guys. So let me try to answer a couple of questions that are not super chats. I got 2 more super chats here that I will answer. Then I'll see if there's a non-super chat I can answer. You've talked about English teachers a lot. What is the scene for other kinds of teachers in international schools? Yeah, you know what, mate? English teaching is really the only surefire job that a foreigner can get. And that's why you get French people or German people or Russian people teaching English, because there isn't a demand for other languages in China. The demand is very low. There are certain other things that foreigners can do, like, like I know some Puerto Rican guys who do salsa dancing instruction. The legitimacy of their visas is always difficult, though, because to get a visa to work in China is incredibly difficult. And usually you need to have a skill that other Chinese people can't have. That's why being a native speaker is something that a Chinese person just can't have. That's why that's always been the go-to. But there are other kinds of teaching that a person can do. The thing is, 9 times out of 10, you can't get a proper work visa for it. So people that are doing things like salsa dance teaching, or if they do like gym CrossFit classes or something, or teaching you how to play a piano or something, 9 times out of 10, those guys are working illegally. So you just got to watch out for that. Okay, Jelly Bye. I'm one you missed, but it's okay. Do you know if video games are becoming popular now that the bans on them have been lifted? AKA Nintendo, PlayStation. First of all, apologies for missing your original one. That was never the intention. And I will tell you that mobile gaming is massive. Mobile gaming and computer stuff, because during the console ban, obviously no one got to play consoles, so that never really became part of society or the zeitgeist here, or whatever you call it. It just was never part of Chinese culture, really. So mobile gaming and PC gaming are king here, and they're very popular, incredibly popular. Mike again asks me, has Sasha driven the vet, and were you nervous? No. You see, Sasha's got a driver's license, but like many Chinese people I know, she did her instructions. So she went to a driving school, which is fairly intense. And they go and they practice and they do their thing. And then she passed her driver's license exam, no problem. And then she never drove. And that was like years ago. So she's got no experience driving. And in fact, I wouldn't trust her behind the wheel of a go-kart, never mind a car. In fact, I don't think I'd trust her on a bicycle. No, I'm going to teach her how to drive properly. But yeah, it's going to be a process. Of course, she's very smart and capable. She'll figure it out very quickly. But at the moment, she's got no experience whatsoever. When are you going to do a drinking video with Seamilk? We actually discussed that the other day. It's coming up, mate. It's coming up soon. Definitely coming up soon. Okay, sorry. And then I don't want to miss out. Okay. What does China think of shard coin? Sorry, I don't know. As far as I know, all cryptocurrency is currently banned in China. And there's a reason for this, because corrupt officials and people that are, doing underhanded deals in China, they're basically using things like Bitcoin to get money out of the country. And this is what the government's trying to prevent. They're trying to prevent this capital flight. So pretty much any form of weird cryptocurrency or ways of getting money out the country have been blocked and banned. Tilt Microleaf. Longtime fan, I'm curious to hear about your darker complexion friend's experience in Asia as a Black American moving to Asia at the start of 2019. Yeah, sure thing, mate. I've got quite a few African friends. I'm African too, but I'm talking about actual Black African friends, and it is tougher for them, but at the same time, there are certain opportunities available which are not available to whitey like myself. It depends on which Asian country you're going to, but you have to understand that you're always going to be discriminated against, whether you like it or not. And it's usually basically down to, first of all, the complexion, because the lighter you are in most Asian countries, the lighter you are, the more handsome or the more beautiful you are, or the more upper class you are. That's the mindset. So if you have a very dark complexion, immediately for people, just straight off the bat, it means that you're very low on the social hierarchy. Whether you're a bloody rocket scientist who's got 20 PhDs and a Nobel Peace Prize winner, if you've got a dark complexion, people will still think that you're like very low on social hierarchy. So you always have to battle against that. And it's unfair, but it's the way it is. And if you can just get past that stupid ignorance, you can really make it work for you. There's still a lot of opportunity, even if you are incredibly dark in complexion. Just depends on you and how tough you are. Okay, oops. Why does this thing keep doing that? Okay. Consider visiting Kendall Farms in Fallbrook. Okay, Kendall Farms. Let me make a note so that I don't forget. Kendall Farms. Okay, I will. Thank you for that, JK. Chuckfish6, advice for avoiding political backlash with locals. I'm working on my master's thesis on water sanitation in China. I'll be studying. Okay, mate. To avoid political backlash, you basically, the only way to avoid political backlash in China is to only ever say positive things about China and never say a single thing that's negative. That's the truth. Try to stay out of politics as much as possible. Don't involve yourself in discussions about Japan. Don't involve yourself in discussions about the trade war or the South China Seas or Taiwan or Winnie the Pooh or, you know, communism or communist China. In fact, just talk about food and you'll be safe. You know, China, unfortunately, is at the moment, people are very sensitive, and you're dealing with people that can't take criticism at all. It's like a teenager. I've made this analogy a few times, but you know, teenagers think they know everything, and if you try to tell them something, they will get all in a hissy fit and throw a tantrum and slam the door and walk out, that kind of thing. That's China at the moment. So basically talk about happy things and you'll be fine. All right, Dale says, or Dale said, and then it disappeared. Wednesday, nothing more than you, Sasha and Sea Milk. Just stay awesome, mate. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot, mate. Seriously. Christine, PFS, on behalf of us all watching this, please say hello to Sasha. I will. I definitely will. She's not with me at the moment, but I'll tell her that you said hello. Thank you so much. Okay. And Smokey, what does your wife do for work, mate? Curious. Yeah, you know, like, I don't know. A lot of people ask me this question, and it's something that I've mentioned a couple of times in the past, but she's a doctor. Skyline C83, consider visiting Gary, Indiana, get life insurance. All right. Velocity 211. Did you enjoy C-Milk's 1JZ Lexus when he had it? No, mate. No, not at all. It was very badly put together. I enjoy cars and I enjoy, you know, modding cars and stuff. But the guys who put it together, not C-Milk's fault. He's got good taste. The guys who put it together had never built a car before, and it was horrendous. There wasn't a single straight panel on that car. There were big holes in the bodywork. There was a lot of rust. It was very poorly put together, and so no, I didn't enjoy it at all. I thought it was a heap. Not C-Milk's fault, though. It was the people who built its fault. Okay, I think that's probably about it. Guys, it's about time we wrap up. If I missed your question, I am sincerely sorry. I obviously missed a little block of questions, and that's got to do with this lag I'm experiencing here. But for all of you guys who did come here and join me for this live stream tonight, you have absolutely no idea just how much I appreciate it, and I appreciate you watching my channel. You guys are amazing, absolutely amazing. And I'm going to, like I said earlier, I'm going to answer a question that's not a super chat. So Legend Troll says, Honda or Toyota? For me, that would be Honda. I've always been a big fan of Honda, especially the motorcycles. So Honda for sure. Let me get one more. Let's see. Let us take a look. Any more questions down here? Let's see. Is there a question? Is there a question? Come on, guys. These are all statements. Let's see. What does my wife do? I've already answered that one. Come on, guys. I'm looking for a question. I'm looking for a question. Okay, let's see. I can't answer some of these. Do you love me? I love all of you guys. So there we go. I think that's it. Listen, guys, thank you so much. Before I close off, I just have to once again reiterate to all of you guys, there's so much coming from both my channel, CMilk's channel, and ADVChina. Now that we're going to be working together, now that we'll have a common base, it is going to take a short while for us to get everything set up. So I'm guessing you're going to start seeing the fruits of this thing around about February. That's when I'm guessing you're going to start seeing things happening. And we're planning to probably be doing Vietnam in February. Things are still up in the air, but there's one hell of a lot of stuff coming your way, and I just cannot wait for you guys to see it. I can't wait to bring it to you. I'm incredibly excited because it's like this weight has been lifted off of my shoulders, and being able to get established properly and have a solid base to work from is going to just make things so much better. And on top of that, I know you guys may not know this, or some of you guys know this, but before I came to America recently, I finished shooting a new documentary, and it's with the same guys that did Conquering Northern China and Conquering Southern China with me. And it's going to be spectacular. It's going to be the best documentary that I've done yet. And it's very interesting, and it's going to show you certain parts of China that no one gets to see. And I mean that this time not about like certain areas of China, actual people doing interesting things. It's more focused on weird and interesting people in China. So I cannot wait for you guys to see it, and it should be coming out within the next, hopefully within December or January. We'll see. All depends on my producer who's editing it. You know, he takes his time, takes his sweet time. But anyway, I can't wait for you guys to see that. Anyway, I better cut this off before it goes on too long. Thank you so much, guys. Once again, love you all, and I'll catch you next time. And until I do, you know the drill. As always, stay awesome. Is this going to end? Let me do that again. Stay awesome.